Golf is so difficult because we're out there for 5+ hours. It's very difficult on tour because there's amazing food in the players' lounge. So guys are gorging themselves at the lunch counter before they go out there, and then they forget to eat, and then they're making terrible decisions coming down the stretch, and then they're calling their swing instructor and firing them at night. To be frank, I was that person at times, so I guess I can only be too harsh on them. But from the outside looking in, it's kind of like, well, this seems pretty obvious, right? Your blood sugar spiked after you eat a huge meal, and then it crashed, and then your focus goes all over the place, and then you eat another big sandwich, and then it spikes, and then it crashes toward the end, and then you make bad decisions.
Hi, this is David Fowler from San Francisco, California, and I play at TPC Harding Park, home of the 2020 PGA Championship. This is Golf Smarter, number 878.
Never let hitting the wall ruin your round by keeping your blood sugar level in check with Brinson Paolini.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Brinson.
Hello, Fred. How are you? Happy to be here.
Great to have you on. You may have already heard about your product just before the show, but you're definitely going to hear about it when we take some breaks. But I'm excited that not only you're going to be a sponsor of Golf Smarter for the next month, but I'm excited about your product because it's something that I learned early on when I started doing this podcast. Someone told me about this thing they called sip and nibble. Which was instead of eating at the turn, instead of having a big meal, instead of drinking, what you need to do, and this person told me, again, this was in 2006, telling me just a sip of water, a bite of a nut or two, or maybe peanut butter pretzel type of thing, every other shot, and just graze through the round versus having a big meal or something to drink. And that grazing through your round is going to prevent the wheels from falling off.
Yes.
And I've got to tell you, I've been using this religiously since, like I said, 2006. I'm now in my late 60s, and I can honestly say I've never said to anybody, okay, I'm falling apart. I'm exhausted here. The wheels are falling off.
That's awesome.
And I hear it from a lot of people, but it's not coming from me.
Yeah.
So your product, Sharp Focus Nutrition, is going to help that a lot.
100%. I experienced the exact same thing that you were talking about. I was fortunate to play competitive golf for the last 25 years of my life, and all through junior golf in college, when I played professionally, it was something that I felt held me back, not only me, but other peers, and we wanted to come up with a solution, and we feel that we have. Okay,
so let's before we get into that solution and the problem, let's talk more about your history. I'm fascinated to know that not just you didn't play just competitive golf on a junior golf level. You kept going.
I did, yeah. So I was fortunate. Like I started playing when I was really young. My sister played as well. We both competed in junior golf tournaments, and then we went on to play. I went on to play golf at Duke. And played there for 4 years and had just a wonderful experience. Wow. And we had some good teams and a lot of great relationships. And then after I graduated, made the decision to play professionally. And I decided to play overseas. So I went over to Europe and went to the qualifying school and started on the Challenge Tour, and was fortunate to end up winning on the Challenge Tour and worked my way up to the European Tour. And really kind of started an 8-year professional career where I played all over the world. I played every major tour, and it was quite an experience. I'm extremely grateful for it. I think the final tally is I've played in 43 different countries and turned a competitive professional golf. So it's a lot of fun.
Wow, that's amazing. 43 countries. What was it about the decision to just go to Europe to play as opposed to try to get it to the US PGA Tour?
So at that time, I'm sure you know the names Peter Uihlein and Brooks Koepka. They were a year older than me and kind of mentors, kids that I looked up to. And I saw what they did. They both went to Europe right away. And the thought was, man, that sounds so cool, right? I get to chase my dream and I get to travel the world. But it was more than that. I thought, hey, if I could handle everything that goes into playing internationally, every week's a different country with different grasses and golf courses and culture, currency. I mean, the list goes on. And if I could handle that, it will hopefully make me stronger in the long run and make me a better player. So you've definitely seen that with Brooks. Obviously, he's going to be an absolute world beater. But really, that was the thought process going into it. And I would change it for the world. I mean, it was an amazing experience. I'm really grateful for it.
I need stories. You got to give me what pops into your head when someone says, "Tell me about what it was like playing overseas competitively on that level."
Yeah, I remember my first trip over there. I'd only ever been to Europe once, and I was fortunate. I turned pro, and I got some starts on the Challenge Tour. They said, "Hey, you could come over and play 3 tournaments." I was a good collegiate player, 2-time All-American, Byron Nelson Award winner. So I was good. I wasn't quite good enough to get some PGA Tour starts, but I knew I could get going on the Challenge Tour. And so I went over there and I landed in Switzerland, Lucerne, which is just an absolutely gorgeous city if you've ever been to it. And I just remember the air just feeling different. And I was so just in a state of bliss for the week. And I ended up finishing second, which was really cool, my first pro start. And then we went to Italy when we were in Tuscany, and I'm playing at this unbelievable resort, and there's a vineyard attached to a vineyard, and we're eating this amazing food every night for €6. And I continued to play fairly well that week. I ended up finishing 20th. Then the next week I went to France, just outside Paris. La Vaudreuil was the name of the city. And I just played some of the best golf of my life, and fortunately ended up winning that week, which was pretty wild. So it was a crazy start to my professional career in those first 3 events. I flew over there and had no idea what to expect. But it was the start of a great journey.
That's incredible. And did you come to a point where you're like, okay, I'm done playing competitively, or I'm going to try to get to the U.S. to play on that tour? What made you decide to become a businessman?
Yeah, so I continued to play. So I played full-time professionally for 8 years. And it was about this time last year that I decided to transition out of playing full-time. And I played in Europe. If they say Europe, it's now it's the DP World Tour, which is a much better name because they play all over the world. But I made the decision about 4 years in that I wanted to try to play the States. And I did. I played the Q School over here, and I ended up playing the Canadian Tour a little bit, Latin American Tour. I played a handful of Corn Ferry events, mudded into PGA Tour events. And, I tried to get myself going here in the States, and just wasn't quite able to get myself in a position where I was playing consistently and making a living. And so last year I decided to transition out of golf full time, and now I'm pursuing a few different endeavors. And it's been a lot of fun to make that shift into more of kind of the business side as opposed to just fully playing.
What did you find to be the major difference between playing competitively around the world and trying to get into the U.S.?
It's really apples to oranges. I think people would say to me, "Oh man, the competition there is just not as deep," right? And yes, maybe from a world ranking standpoint, but I just don't think you can compare the two. I think if you put PGA Tour players on the European Tour, I think they would struggle with their own issues, and I think vice versa. I think we see European players trying to get on the PGA Tour, and it's a challenge, right? You're away from your family, you're far away, it's different. So I think it's hard to really pinpoint. I think the one skill that's really important is just adaptability, right? I think every week is just so different from on the golf course, off the golf course, and you just have to be able to adapt and find a way to get comfortable when the world feels like it's out of control. And the guys that are able to do that are the ones that are able to play consistently internationally. Like Ernie Els. I mean, that guy is just my idol. I mean, the guy has played all around the world for 30 years, and it looks like he's barely broken a sweat. It's just incredible.
It's true. Yeah. He's got the smoothest swing, and it never looks like he's hitting the ball very hard.
I know. It's just amazing.
It done.
It's just amazing. Such a good dude.
Unbelievable. So when you say adaptability, what is it that you learned about traveling so much, and where you probably didn't speak the language most of the time? You spoke golf, and that was enough. But what was it about adaptability? What did you learn?
Yeah, I learned that you just have to be your own best friend. You got to be your own best coach. Things are going to get thrown at you, and you just have to make the best decision for yourself. I remember, this is a crazy story. My first time, so I made it to the European Tour, made it through Q School in Spain, flew home to the United States. I was home for 5 days. And then I flew, the first tournament was the South African Open. So I flew 15 hours to South Africa, played the SA Open. The next event was in Hong Kong. So I flew 15 hours to Hong Kong, played the Hong Kong Open. And then the next event was in South Africa. I flew all the way back to South Africa for a week and then flew home. So I think it was 4 15-hour flights in 3 weeks. And the big lesson there was I was doing too much, right? I was so excited, and all I wanted to do was play when I could play, but I wasn't prioritizing rest. I wasn't prioritizing nutrition or my exercise and everything that goes into playing well. And I was just spreading myself thin, even though I was 22 years old and felt like I could do anything. It's very, very challenging for really anyone to handle something like that. As fun as it was a blast, but it was very, very hard on my body. That's for sure.
Yikes. We're going to give your body a little bit of a break. We're going to take a time out. We'll be back right after this. I once had someone tell me, someone who had played on the tour, that when you're playing professional sports or you're playing on the tour, you've got to be able to eat anything, sleep anywhere, not get emotionally attached with anybody. There's just so many things that you have to be ready to go the next day, no matter what you ate, no matter how you slept. And you've got to be able to adjust to all these different conditions, beds and various foods and, small cramped spaces or big, there's so much that you have to adapt to. And that's what you talked about. Did you find that, sleeping somewhere different every night, being on planes for 15 hours really hurt your game?
For sure. It's definitely a challenge. I think at the time, you're not necessarily thinking about it. You're just trying to play your best golf. But it absolutely has an effect on you. There's no doubt that it wouldn't, right? I mean, we have to find ways to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Like your friend said, right? I don't care how I feel. I don't care. I need to go out there and I need to make it happen. But at the same time, we're human beings, and we have to have rest, and we have to take care of ourselves if we're going to want to perform at our best.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that when you were traveling so much in those 3 consecutive weeks where you probably put on 100,000 miles in the air in 3 weeks, going back and forth, South Africa, Japan, South Africa, United States, that what was being sacrificed was your nutrition and your exercise. Yeah,
100%. I mean, you're having to eat whatever is available, right? And it's a challenge. I mean, even just going to the grocery store and trying to find a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? I mean, that's not necessarily something. It's just not that simple, right? You're just having to take whatever you can. And it's hard because I'd be coming down the stretch on a Friday afternoon trying to make the cut. And to me, that is the most fun to watch a professional event. You go watch pros on a Friday afternoon trying to make a cut. Those guys are grinding. And you see guys struggle, and they see it on tour and they say, oh man, the guy's so nervous and he's choking. And I don't know if I always necessarily agree with that. I think guys are running out of energy. I really do. I saw it. I experienced it. They're dehydrated. They're not eating. When you're nervous, you don't want to eat. And so they're not choking. I really, they say that on tour, and I know it sounds, oh, that's cool. I can't see this guy falling apart. It's like, man, I just think the guy's tired. I think he's running out of energy and he's running out of fuel. And I experienced it, and I saw it time and time again with my play competitors.
I can imagine that is the case, that we don't recognize. We're just assuming these guys got it all ready to go for 4 straight days. And I would think that even, if you're tired on Friday, if you get to be playing on Sunday and you're up in that top 10 and you have a shot at it most of the time, if you're in the top 10, that has to just suck it out of you as well.
100%. I mean, that's why you see the top players, they do so little early in the week. It's just they know that the goal is to go into Sunday afternoon on the back nine, hopefully with a chance to win, but having their energy level be extremely high. Like, you're rarely going to see a top player play more than 9 holes on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. you're not going to see them spend more than an hour and a half on the driving range, right? I mean, they're doing everything they can to conserve energy because they understand how important that is. Come Sunday, to your point, I mean, it takes so much out of you. I remember being in contention on Sundays and you're just gassed. I remember when I made it through Q school, I've never been more tired in my life. I mean, for 4 days, I was just exhausted because it just takes so much out of you and you got to be prepared for that.
And it's not just physically exhausted, you're emotionally exhausted, right?
Oh, 100%. I don't think golfers don't understand the number of decisions that you make in a round of golf, right? I mean, there's so many decisions that go into each individual shot, right? The lie, the wind, what club I'm going to hit, whether I'm going to be committed or not, where I want to leave it. And not only that, but the decisions you're making in between shots, right? Am I making the decision to be in a good state of mind? Am I making the decision to be upset and not leave things in the past and move forward? I mean, and you're out there for so long, right? I mean, that's the difference in other sports we're out there for 4.5, 5 hours, sometimes 6, 7 hours. I mean, that's a lot of time to be out there. And it can really, really wear you down.
And what was your exercise routine like during all of this? Were you highly motivated? Are you just doing yoga? Are you doing work, weight training? What are you doing?
So when I was traveling a lot internationally, that's another challenge you have a plan, right? But you don't know what equipment you're going to have whenever you land in Kazakhstan or, Kenya, or you don't know what's going to be available. So I traveled with bands. So I did a lot of core, a lot of bands, and I've always been a huge believer in yoga. So I've always done a lot of yoga. I always travel with a mat. I still do it to this day. I think it's just such a great mind-body exercise. And so that's really what it looked like when I played. When there was never really an off season. I know golf has evolved a lot in the last year and a half, 2 years, and now there's a bit more of one. But when I did have 2 or 3 weeks off, I would definitely try to put on some weight. But I'm not overly big guy. I'm 5'11", 165 pounds, so I'm not jumping out on the stat sheet. But there would definitely be a little bit more weightlifting in an off week.
Yeah, I would think so. This is incredible. So did you also, even though you graduated from Duke, you played there for 4 years, then you went out, now you're traveling internationally. Did you continue your studies? Did you go back to school?
I did. So in about 2016 or 2017, I did. So I decided that I ended up enrolled to get my MBA, and it was almost an all online program through William & Mary. And there's a few reasons for that. One, I always have been interested in business, and I thought it would help me in that going forward. I knew the day would come, I'd walk away from the game. I didn't know when that day would be. I wanted to be prepared for that. But further than that, I felt like I did better when I was in college, and I had dimensions to my life, and I had work, and I had my friends, and I had golf. And when I turned pro, all of a sudden it was all golf all the time. And it can be a lot, right? I mean, it's hard to not let that score define you at the end of the day. And as much as it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. So I think there was a few reasons that went into that. And I'm so grateful for it. I learned a ton, things that I use every single day. And I really do think it helped my play because it gave me that outlet at night to come home and not obsess over the 5-footer I missed on 14, right? And I could leave that where it was. I could come home. I could focus on something else, get my mind off of it. And I just think that's really important for everyone, right? Doing one thing and obsessing over it is just never good for anyone.
Oh, come on. We're talking to golfers here. We're totally obsessed. And we're not even doing it professionally. You did. We did. We're not doing it professionally, and we still obsess.
Yeah.
On the 5-footer.
Exactly. I'll be lying if I don't go to bed dreaming about golf and wake up dreaming about it as well. It's it's the best game there is. It pulls you in, it draws you in, and no matter what, we're always striving for something in it. And I think that's why we love it, right? We're doing everything we can, and there's just no better feeling than a perfectly struck golf shot. I've yet to find anything better than that.
And you probably played a lot of sports as a kid, right?
I did. I played them all when I was really young, soccer, basketball. I did specialize fairly early when I was about 13. I really focused on golf. I played recreational basketball a little bit, but it was pretty much all golf. from about 13 on. And like I mentioned, my sister played as well. And so we would travel with junior tournaments together. And it was really kind of a family affair. And it was a lot of fun.
Are you the big brother?
I'm the younger brother.
Is she older?
She's older. She's 2 years older.
So you were following. So did she get started playing before you? And then you just was like, I'll do that.
She did. Yeah. My sister is an incredible human being. She was a great player. She's got a great golf swing. Like I said, she full scholarship to the William & Mary, and she could have played professionally. I always say she's got more talent than me, but she ended up going to medical school, and she actually has 2 doctorate degrees. She's an MD PhD. She's just an incredible person. So she's a radiologist and a neuroscientist. She has her PhD in neuroscience, and she's actually been a huge impact on Sharp Focus. She's been really connected me with great nutritionists and just great research out there on what you should be eating, when you should be eating it. So she's been very involved in that process, and really grateful for her support and just her knowledge.
I feel like we should be playing the song from Chorus Line, where the guy's talking about how he went to dance school because his big sister, and he was like, I can do that. I can do that. So maybe we should go into commercial break listening to a song from Chorus Line, I Can Do That, which we're not going to do, but we'll be back right after this. So what was it that you saw on tour, and you're watching how other players are exhausted, they're losing it, and you noticed that it was partly because of what they ate and how they were eating it? I mean, what did you notice that made you think, oh, there's a solution to this, and these guys aren't even paying attention?
Like I mentioned before, golf is so difficult because we're out there for 5+ hours. And you have to eat while you're doing that. And guys were not doing it correctly. And it's very difficult on tour because there's amazing food in the players' lounge. So guys are gorging themselves at the lunch counter before they go out there. And then they forget to eat. And then they're making terrible decisions coming down the stretch. And then they're calling their swing instructor and firing them at night. And you're sitting there. And to be frank, I was that person at times. So I guess I can only be too harsh on them. But you're sitting there now, from the outside looking in, it's kind of like, well, this seems pretty obvious, right? I mean, you probably your blood sugar spiked after you ate a huge meal, and then it crashed, and then your focus goes all over the place, and then you eat another big sandwich, and then it spikes, and then it crashes toward the end, and then you make bad decisions. And so I watched it happen to them. I experienced it myself, and I thought, well, how can we find a way? I've had this idea for a very, very long time. And just, recently, we made the decision to put it together, and it's been a lot of fun. But really, it's that experience of myself and of seeing my fellow competitors, struggle toward the end of the round and making bad decisions. Because decision making is the first thing that goes. If you're losing energy, you're hungry, you're tired, you're dehydrated, the first thing that goes is decision making. And I'm a firm believer you should never blame your golf swing or anything else until you're in the best frame of mind that you could be in. Well, you can only do that if you have the proper fuel.
I'm waiting for you to keep going here. I want to just have you continue that thought, please.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's what we've been able to do here. I mean, the whole idea is small increments of food throughout the round to keep your blood sugar level. And it's great. You mentioned earlier that you'd like to think it's sip and nibble. You mentioned where you sip a little bit of water and then you nibble a little bit of food throughout the round. And that's great. I think that's wonderful that really the nutritionist and that really shows it's not just about eating small amounts of food. It's what type of food that you're eating. And it's like the type and the sequence of it. And it's really the type and sequence of the 3 macronutrients. So you got carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And so that's what we've done is we've put that research into Sharp Focus Nutrition. It's backed by neuroscientists. It's backed by nutritionists. And this is saying this is what you need to be eating while you're playing to keep your blood sugar constant and to keep your energy level the same. And really, everyone that has tried it has said, man, tastes great. I feel great. And I'm playing better. I mean, those are 3 three things that all of us are striving for.
Absolutely. So the wheels falling off, which is, we hear it a lot at the end of a round, near the end of a round, your playing partners are starting to fade away.
Right.
It's the real thing. It's not like I'm just tired or I'm stressed out from work. There's a lot more to it than that people don't realize.
Yeah.
After they've had 3 beers while they're playing golf.
No, absolutely. I think it's unconscious. It's difficult work. It's not like we're a car and we can check and see, okay, my oil's low, right? Like there is no indicator that says, hey, you're hungry or hey, you're thirsty. And the problem is when you start feeling those, it's too late, right? Like there's nothing you can do at that point. So it's really important to be able to do it on the front end, so you're preparing it and getting ready for that time. And I come back to the story. We started working with a couple of college golf teams, and I remember when we first started working with this coach, he calls me and he's like, "Brinson, I got to tell you this story. Last fall, we were struggling, not playing well, and I told the team, I said, look, next tournament, all we're going to do is we're only focusing on eating and drinking throughout the round. I don't care how we play. I don't care what happens, but I feel like our energy's dipping. I feel like we're not doing a good job. All we're going to do is eat and drink." So we went to the store, loaded up on a bunch of snacks. Everybody went out and they ate and they won the tournament. Only focusing on that. And to me, I think it's a true testament to what's happening. And it's very, very difficult because we're not able to measure ourselves and see what's happening. But it's extremely important. We want to be able to do everything we can. If we want to be the best golfer that we can, we're spending money on golf clubs and golf instruction and hours on the range, right? We're trying to find that next quick fix out there, right? But end of the day, there's just good quality food makes a huge difference.
Huge difference. And most of the time, you're not even going to find that in the clubhouse.
No, it's going to be hot dogs and candy bars and all those things. And you're really gonna struggle. But we've all experienced it, right? We have a huge bowl of pasta. Oh man, tastes great, and then 10 minutes later you're falling asleep. Or if you had a nice salmon and some vegetables, you eat it. 10 minutes later you can go on a run. Like you feel great, right? I mean, we've all experienced eating good, nutritious food and how it makes our body feel. And if you're going to try to play the best golf that you can, then you would want to be able to do that, right?
Yeah. So for me, I've always been a fan. Like I said, I do the whole sip and nibble thing, but I could easily do a 3-ounce bag of nuts, peanuts or cashews, and it'll take me an entire round just because I'm not doing it that much. I'm spacing it out. And one,
gotcha.
Fill up my water bottle and just have one bottle of water. But I've also noticed that on really hot days, I'm consuming a lot more water, but then I'm kind of going with energy drinks then because I need to get some of this energy stuff now, like Gatorade. I know a lot of people hate Gatorade. It's too sweet. And I kind of like Gatorade. The green one, not the red, not the blue. But I like having Gatorade on very hot days. And anything over 85 degrees, and I'm going to be drinking maybe one, or over 90 degrees, maybe 2 of them.
Yeah.
Is that a okay choice? Is Gatorade's probably a little too sugary and probably losing it?
It's very difficult. So hydration is extremely important. And, as a performance coach and someone with a nutritional business, like we're really trying to solve that problem, right? It's super important, but there's a lot that goes into nutrition or hydration, excuse me. And it's so variable from person to person, right? It's so much variable on the temperature, obviously, to your point, the humidity, where you are, your personal body composition. There's a lot that goes into it. And to answer your question, Gatorade has a lot of sugar and has a lot of high fructose corn syrup and just a lot of non-natural flavoring in there. And I would put that in the processed food realm. And processed food is just terrible for you. It's really bad from an energy standpoint. It leads to just things that we don't want. We want to stay with natural food as much as we can. And really the best thing that we've come up with is kind of what you were doing when you mentioned water, right? It's sipping water every hole throughout the round is the best thing that you can do. Now, when it's hotter, you're going to have to sip a little bit more water than it is when it's a little bit cooler. But I think there's a lot better products out there than Gatorade. Water is great. The nice thing about Sharp Focus with our food, there's a good amount of sodium. We have really good tasting beef jerky in there, and sodium is great when it's hot out to help store that water in your body. So that's another nice piece to that, is that sodium is a good thing. It's going to help keep that water in your body as you're sweating it out when it's 100 degrees.
Yeah. And I'm lucky enough that I'm playing in California, so I don't have to deal with the humidity. So hot weather like that is usually dry, so it's not as draining. I'm not.
I mean, don't brag too much.
Yeah. I'm not complaining. All right, listen, we're going to take one more time out. I want to come in back and let's break down what's in Sharp Focus Nutrition packs and how to use it. So we'll do that right after this. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, we bring back a conversation with Jeff Ritter from 2011 in an episode we call Golf Swings Are Like Snowflakes. No two are alike. Jeff's the kind of thoughtful instructor who values getting the best out of a student's full potential.
The most exciting thing for me is to see people get excited about the possibility that exists within them. And sometimes that's a golf-related possibility. Sometimes it's a mental attitude. Sometimes it's a physical change. And those are the things I like to be able to push out there. So I kind of think of myself as like a point guard on a basketball team. As I'm on the lesson tee and I start getting into a dialogue with my student, whether it's about their swing or something else, it's exciting to be able to point them into a direction that ultimately leads to a journey that they never would have had they not been in that conversation with me at that given point in time. So to be able to help facilitate an experience for someone else where they come back and say, hey, I've changed the way that I'm looking at things and I'm not so stressed anymore. Those are the experiences that really mean a lot to me, in addition to fixing hooks and slices and helping people putt better.
That's Golf Smarter Mulligans, episode 194, with Jeff Ritter of Make the Turn Performance. Please subscribe for free to our sister podcast that revisits the best of the Golf Smarter podcast called Golf Smarter Mulligans, being released every Friday from wherever you're listening right now. All right, we're going to break down Sharp Focus Nutrition. And I'm sorry if I've been saying it wrong all along, but it's Sharp Focus Nutrition. And we'll learn what you have in these packs and why they've been developed for golfers and why they're so good. But let's first go over the do's and don'ts of what you should and shouldn't be doing during a round of golf with your own nutrition and hydration.
So I think it first starts with, a good night's sleep, right? I think it's extremely important. There's so much research coming out on the importance of sleep. So if you have an important round the next day, make sure you're getting a minimum of 7.5 hours of sleep, right? Then you're going to get up in the morning, and in a perfect world, you're going to be eating a meal about 2.5 hours before you play. It's going to be, hopefully a good nutritious breakfast, eggs, whole grains, fruit, those types of things. And, you're going to start drinking water as soon as you get up in the morning. Every morning I wake up, I have a huge glass of water before I drink coffee. The research says now really you should wait about 90 minutes before you drink your cup of coffee, just to help you not crash. The other thing I would say about coffee too, it's very important to have it roughly the same time before you play your round, right? I used to struggle because I love my cup of coffee when I wake up in the morning, but I was struggling in my afternoon rounds. And I started thinking, I was like, well, I have my cup of coffee at 7 a.m. and I tee off at 1. Well, I'm probably crashing from my cup of coffee. So I think it's important, if you typically have your cup of coffee about 2 hours before you play, do that every single time that you play going forward. So that would be the keys, I would say, before you play and before you get to the golf course, and say you're going to use Sharp Focus Nutrition, right? The best thing you do, you arrive at the golf course, grab your clubs out of the bag, you grab your Sharp Focus, and there's going to be 5 food items in there. And 4 of them are going to be attached to a carabiner clip. And really the idea there is we clip it on the outside of our bag. And so it's always visible, because part of the issue for me is I would forget to eat. It wouldn't be that I didn't bring food. I just would forget to eat it, right? So we want to make it visible always. So all 4 of them are attached on your bag, so you see it. And the only other one that isn't is the beef jerky. So the best thing to do is you grab the beef jerky, and as you're walking to the putting green, you're walking to the driving range, it's about 30, 40 minutes before you play. You take the jerky and you eat the jerky before. And that's the best time to do it. And throughout all of this, you're sipping your glass, you're sipping your water, you're sipping your water. And then you will see on there the other 4 items you will eat on every 4 holes, starting on the second hole. So hole 2, 6, 10, and 14. Now, that seems very regimented, and it is, because that's really what the science says you should do. But it's not that rigid, right? Like if you are going to wait until hole 3 or hole 4 to have the first amount of food in there, which is going to be either cashews or almonds after your jerky before, that's fine. It's really the type and the sequencing that you go through. Now, the science says you should eat it on those holes, but it's not that rigid, right? If you want to wait till the 3rd or 4th hole, that's fine. Just make sure you're doing it in the order that is in the packet.
And how do you feel about energy bars? Like, there's been a huge influx of energy bars every week. Cliff bars are really popular. Do those help? I mean, if you even had one energy bar to take you 9 holes to eat it, I mean, I've seen guys just do it in one bite, but an energy bar over 9 holes, just again, grazing over it.
Right.
Are those helpful, or is that just a name that they're putting on it to sell it?
It is. I mean, a lot of them, it's difficult. So they have a binding ingredient in them, and it really leads to a spike in your blood sugar, and then it will lead to a crash. And they tend to have a lot of sugar. It will depend on the actual bar, like the first T bar, the 10 T bars have a ton of sugar in them, and they have a lot of processed food. And we really just want to stay away from processed food. We want to focus on natural food. That's what gives our body proper nutrients. So we really think, you should stay away from them if you can. Now, eating is better than not eating toward the end of the round, right? So it's interesting. So our last item is dried fruit, and it's got a lot of sugar in it, but it's got a lot of sugar in it on purpose, because we want to spike our blood sugar toward the end of the round, because after we've sequenced between proteins and fats, we've built that great base, then we want to spike our blood sugar to push us over the edge toward the end. And then we're fine toward the end, and we can go get a nice meal, and if it crashes, it's fine. But that's in there on purpose, because that's the most important part of the round, right? And we've done everything that we should do. We've eaten the proper food, good and nutritious, and then we're going to get to the end, we're going to have that dried fruit, and it could push us to the end. So to your point, I mean, if you're struggling and you're getting to the end and all you have is a candy bar in your bag, it's better than nothing, because it is going to spike your blood sugar and at least push you over the edge, right? And that we don't recommend it, but it is better than nothing.
My favorites have always been peanut butter pretzels and dried mangoes.
Okay.
Those are the things that I love to put in a bag before I head out. Those work? Peanut butter pretzels, all right?
Do you just do the pretzels or in the dried peanut butter, or do you go back and forth between the two?
Back and forth.
Back and forth?
Yeah,
okay.
Back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would wait to have the dried fruit toward the end, and I would focus on, hopefully sharp focus is what you're focusing on, but I would focus on the pretzels and the protein, or you said peanut butter, is that right?
Peanut butter pretzels. Yeah.
Peanut butter pretzels. Okay. Yeah, they're going to have a decent amount of, depending on what the protein is, could have a decent amount of sugar in there, but it's not the worst thing that you'd be eating. That's for sure.
Well, let me just say, that's the way I used to do it. Now it's all about sharp focus nutrition. And I've had a couple rounds. I mean, I haven't played in a month because of the weather, but the 2 rounds before I stopped playing, you sent me some samples, and it was like, oh, this works. This is definitely good. So I'm definitely making the change on that. But also, I'm in my late 60s.
Right.
I've made some changes in my diet over the last couple of years. I stopped drinking caffeine years ago. I only, in the morning, my cup of coffee is a cup of decaf or a cup of tea. I don't have the only soda that I will drink is root beer because it's high in sugar, but no caffeine. Caffeine, I have weird withdrawals when I do caffeine. I get these really nasty headaches, so I just cut it out of my life. I have weird digestive things when I eat eggs, so I cut that out of my life. I've cut all red meat and white meat out of my life.
Wow.
So I do eat fish and a lot of vegetables, a lot of nuts, a lot of beans. And it's been fabulous. I'm really happy with it, and I don't miss meat at all.
That's awesome.
Although I do miss hot dogs, but it's been a while since I had a good hot dog because I haven't found a plant-based alternative hot dog. Good plant-based alternative hamburgers, but I haven't found good hot dogs yet.
Gotcha.
Anybody have any suggestions, that please write to me and let me know if you found one that's good. But so with those restrictions, like your package, you open up with beef jerky.
Uh-huh.
I'm not doing beef jerky.
Yeah.
So are there any alternatives that would work to open up? Or have you guys figured out something or not?
We're still trying to work through that and figure that out. We have beef jerky. People love beef jerky. I mean, it's a great nutritious snack.
Yeah.
It's the number one selling snack in the United States, believe it or not. And ours is really good tasting and it's great. And it really sets us up, and we're working hard and open for suggestions to try to find something that's that good to start with. So we're certainly, for someone like you that is avoiding meat, we definitely want to accommodate that. And, we're working to try to find a better alternative. We've added some other varieties in there with other food items within the pack. And, we're hoping we could do that with the jerky as well.
So tell me why you start with beef jerky. What is it about the beef jerky that you think is a good place to start?
Just has a great amount of protein in there, a great amount of protein, lean. It's good lean. It keeps you full for a really long time. And it does have a good amount of sodium in it, but that's great. We're going to be outside. It's going to be sweating. Like we talked about before, the sodium is going to help keep that water in your body. And so we just think it's a really good place to start. And people have really enjoyed it. We've gotten great feedback from it.
Fascinating. I'm wondering if anybody's ever come up with some sort of bean jerky.
Bean
right?
jerky,
You've
yeah.
got all that protein in there.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that.
Something out of beans, right?
Yeah, no.
I'm not missing eating protein. People are like, oh, well, don't you miss eating? What about protein? It's like, there's no shortage of protein in vegetables,
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite line about it, and I'm not religious about it. I may, if we don't find an alternative, I'll go with the beef jerky. I'll give it a shot. But
we'll do our best. We'll find it for you.
Yeah. Well, my favorite thought about it was we don't eat predators, right? We eat cow, we eat sheep, right? Lamb, deer. We don't eat lions. We don't eat tigers. We don't eat, right? So, and what is the meat? What is it that cows eat? Grass. So for me, it's just eliminating the middleman. I'm just going to go right to the plant-based, same thing they're eating.
Yeah.
Just go that way. So, there's a tremendous amount of protein in nuts too. Yeah. So, okay. So we go from the, beef jerky, and now, we get on the course. We before our round, we're eating the beef jerky.
Yes.
Let's do the schedule of how we're eating and what's in each pack.
Correct. So we're eating the jerky before the round. Now, this is if we're following it as the science says you should, right? So we're getting to the golf course. Hopefully you're going to have some time to go to the driving range and hit some balls, hit some putts. Highly recommend doing that. So you're going to get there. You're going to clip the carabiner clip on the outside of your bag. You're going to grab the jerky. You're going to eat the jerky. You're going to keep sipping water as you go. And then when you get to the second hole, you're going to have two options. So, when you order it, you can either get cashews or you could get almonds. And so you're going to eat that on the second hole. And then you're going to go to the fourth hole, and there's going to be trail mix. And then, you're going to get the sixth hole, and there's going to be trail mix.
Do you have chocolate in your trail mix?
No, there's not chocolate in our trail mix. No M&Ms.
Yeah, because that's sugar. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, no chocolate or M&Ms in there. And so then you're going to get to the 10th hole, and there's going to be very tasty granola. It's going to be a good amount of granola, and that is good. It's releases slowly in your system. It keeps you full. You'd be very surprised at how much that keeps you full. And then you're going to get to the 14th hole and you're going to have the dried fruit, which is either going to be mangoes or apricots, depending on your choice. And really, I think that the whole idea when you do get to try it, you're going to feel full, but you're not going to feel so full that you can't, like you're eating a huge meal. You're going to have just this nice constant energy, this nice constant satiated feeling that's going to allow you to stay focused throughout the round.
Phenomenal. So let's go over what you're selling now. And again, thank you so much for sponsoring Golf Smarter
Absolutely.
for the next month. And we'll reiterate this information every episode over the next couple of weeks. But here's the products. There's an 18-hole product, which is a large carabiner clip that includes beef jerky, roasted cashews, the trail mix, granola, and dried apricots. And that's $9.75 per item on their website. And Golf Smarter listeners get 10% off if you use the checkout code SF10. That could either be Sharp Focus 10 or San Francisco 10, SF10. Use that when you go to sharpfocusnutrition.com. And you have a 9-hole product, which I think is fabulous because not everyone has time to play 18 holes.
Yep.
And that is a smaller carabiner clip, but it has the beef jerky, the cashews, and the dried apricots. And it's only $4.95 with your 10% discount.
Okay.
Amazing, because that's what they're going to charge you for the candy bar at the turn anyway. So this is much better, and you have this ready to go.
Absolutely.
And then you offer a refill option that has no clip on that, no carabiner clip, and you sell it in quantities of 6 or 11.
Okay.
And 6 of them with your discount is $49.50, and 11 with the discount is $89.10. It's the cost is not an issue here. This is a really smart way to do it, and every golfer is going to notice a difference. And when we talked about the things, Brinson and I have talked about the various things that are going to wipe you out during your round and make you feel like you're losing it. That's not going to happen anymore when you use this product. You could put your own little things together, but it's all packaged and it's not that expensive. The things you're going to buy in the store, you're going to pay basically the same amount. So I highly recommend that everyone check into this. Again, go to sharpfocusnutrition.com and use SF10 when you're checking out, so they know that you came from Golf Smarter and you're going to get that 10% discount. And then order your refill so you have it ready to go for all season long. Spring coming into spring, summer, fall, you can be playing a lot of golf. This is going to be one of those things that you're going to say, I'm so glad that I figured this one out, because I just really was getting tired a lot and it's just not working anymore. So, Brinson, really appreciate, again, your support of Golf Smarter and for coming up with a great product.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Fred. Really appreciate it. And it was a great discussion and really excited about the partnership going forward.
Well, here's something pretty cool I just learned about when talking to Brinson a little more after our recording session. He found us when doing research about which podcast Sharp Focus Nutrition should partner with, and apparently Golf Smarter was included in a top 10 list of golf podcasts to listen to in 2023. Not only were we in that top 10, but we were listed as the best podcast for the mental game. I'm flattered and honored to be recognized. So thank you, Brinson, for bringing it to my attention. And I want to thank the writer of the piece, Matt Calcott-Stevens, who's a seasoned golf writer, sports fanatic, and has a postgraduate degree in sports marketing. Totally flattered by that. Didn't see it coming. And I love the fact that we're listed to be the best podcast for the mental game. That is Golf Smarter, right? I'll leave a link to the article from golfspan.com in today's show notes. I want to thank David Fowler from San Francisco for being our newest Golf Smarter ambassador. David plays at TPC Harding Park, which is one of my all-time favorite golf courses. David also plays at Harding's 9-hole track called Fleming with his 2 kids. And the 4 of us are planning to play together this spring. David, who claims to be a big fan of Red Rooster Golf, has selected to get a new glove and glove storage compartment from them just by providing us with a recording of today's intro. You, too, can win a Golf Smarter gift and have a choice of which you'd prefer, and here's all you have to do. Send an email to golfsmarterpodcast@gmail.com and request our simple instructions to leave a voicemail at the Golf Smarter toll-free line. And when you do, you can choose a dozen balls with the Golf Smarter logo from Odin Golf, the golf brand that sponsors and pays everyday golfers. These tour quality balls are a fraction of the price of what you'd usually pay, and when you use the code GolfSmarter at checkout, you'll receive an additional 20% off the order. Their link is in today's show notes as well. You also have the option to receive a private online link to Tony Manzoni's video of the Lost Fundamental. And your third choice is a new glove and glove storage compartment from redroostergolf.com, the unique glove subscription service that offers many styles of gloves in 26 sizes. So please send an email and I'll get back to you with some instructions of what to do and what to say. Just write to golfsmarterpodcast@gmail.com or click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com. Up next, we're going to meet Reeves Whedon. He's an instructor and researcher from the UK. He was referred to me by Justin Tang, who we met a few months ago on episode 866. Now, in addition to Justin being a great source of interesting guests, he's also scheduled to come back soon to discuss at length his insights to why Tony Manzoni's swing method is so compelling for so many of us. And now back to Reeves Whedon's research, which has helped him develop a pain-free golf swing for golfers with bad backs. And in the interview, I asked him if he was familiar with the teachings of Tony Manzoni. He wasn't, so I sent him to our full page at golfsmarter.com/Tony, and he's already written back to me to say that Tony was right. More on that next week. Please remember to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Golf Smarter. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for upcoming episodes, please click on the Hey Fred button when you visit golfsmarter.com.